been here before on this beach some time ago. This is a very, very beautiful place here in the north shore of São Paulo, Brazil. And I simply love this beach because it's so tiny, and there are lots of rocks here that with the tide they change constantly. And I decided to come back here to try some new compositions, to do some long exposure photography again. So the weather today is a little bit cloudy. The sun is coming through some clouds. You can see sunlight bursting through the clouds, which is really good because when I arrived here, I already thought about some compositions. And but I'm just enjoying some time here, contemplating, thinking about some new compositions. And this is about 4 p.m. so we have 1 hour to golden hour to sunset. The sea is not very stormy, it's okay, there's some smaller waves coming in. I really just came here because I thought the last time since I'm here in the North Shore, I thought again going back to this beach. I've been here, this is my 3rd time here. And as you know, I like to go back to certain places because the weather changes, the sea changes, the rocks formations change, and so the compositions also changed. I'm really, really excited to have some time to be here today. It feels so good to be here. It's so peaceful here, and I think that I just have found my first composition. Okay, my first composition here is using this big rock here as main interest. Leave the mountains in the background, and the sun is around here, so it will set behind those mountains. And I'm going to try to fix my tripod here and try to find a spot here around these rocks here where I can trace a good composition on my foreground by using, trying to find some leading lines here with the big rock and the mountains. Okay, so first of all, I'll frame my composition. I'm not using a tripod now. I'm using a wide angle lens. This is a 70 to 40 millimeter lens. And as I said before, I will just look for some compositions here on these rocks. Okay, got it now. In order to refine your composition, you have to move around quite a lot. Don't go straight out shooting something. Really think about your composition first. And only then you can pick your camera, see your settings, see through the viewfinder or the LCD, and then put your camera on the tripod. I think the tide is rising. So I will go for a vertical composition, and let me go through this composition with you. And then I will try to place my tripod exactly at that spot. So what am I doing here is trying to find, oh my God, the tide is really rising. So what I'm trying to do here is find a way through these rocks here. So let me remember where I found here. Yes, about here. So you see, there is this rock here. I could include it, but I also want to include the sky. Okay, so I want to include the sky, and I will include those rocks. So it will be around here. So I will not leave this rock here goes into my composition, and I also not leave this one here also goes. So it will be cropped around here. Okay, so those three will be on the foreground. This is my middle ground, and I will place an ND filter, ND graduated filter, because the sky is so blown out that I will lose some details on those rocks here. Well, now I just need to be patient and wait for the right moment for the waves to strike those rocks and recede. So my idea is try to capture the waves receding, not coming in but coming out, like that. So it will, with this brighter area of the foam, it will probably produce some streaks, some lines that will help on my composition. And as for the sky, as I spoken before, I'm going to use an ND graduated filter. I'm focusing on this rock here. Okay, so I'm using a hard edge ND graduated filter, 4 stops ND graduated filter, and I'm also just dropped in a 6-stop ND filter. So that should be enough to produce 1 second exposure, about 1 second exposure, in order to get those. Oh, one thing I forgot, I'm going to use my remote trigger. This is simple, effective, and very cheap for situations like this. So I'll just leave on the high-speed mode, and I'm just going to use the trigger in order to not shake the camera. I just bumped up my ISO a little bit to ISO 200 because I want to get a little faster shutter speed. Okay, finally got it. It took some time, but it was well worth the wait. So for this, I took a lot of photos. This was about maybe 300 photos with one photo, but it gives me the ability to choose later on post-production the ones that I like the most. This is a moment where you can't predict the behavior of the waves, so the best thing to do is try to maximize your capture. And in order to do that, I use a remote trigger and also high-speed burst mode. And now I'm moving to another composition. Okay, just found another composition here, and for this one I have changed it to 1:1 aspect ratio. It just works better for this composition. This time I'm not putting a graduated ND filter. I'm just working on the rocks and the sea, so there's nothing blown out. There's no reason for you to use it. I will drop, maybe this time I will use a polarizer. I want to see the effect on the sand and on the rocks. And I'm also using, will be using a 6-stop ND filter. But I will also try with a 10-stop. The polarizer cuts off some reflexes from the sand. There's a water reflection on the sand, and the polarizer helps to make a better contrast between the rocks and the sand and the water that is coming. So the ND64, the ND 6 stops was too much. because I'm already using a polarizer. So what I'm going to do is to use a 3-stop ND filter. So this way I don't have to increase my ISO. Well, while I was doing a 5-minute exposure, I just looked at some isolated rock on the sand that it might work very well a composition with a telephoto lens with my 70 to 200 millimeters. I'm just gonna have to try and to probably use a faster shutter speed. I want to chase like the wave, just hitting in the exact moment the rock. So it will be a trial and error situation. I don't know if that will really work out, but I'm gonna try. Okay, I don't know if that's gonna work because the tide is coming. I just figured out that it's coming really fast now. But I'm going to try those other hawks around here because they are facing towards the sun, and it has a golden reflex that is very, very beautiful. And this here is another very interesting part of the composition because the way I'm seeing those rocks is not exactly what the camera is showing me. I mean, the color tone is not exactly what I feel. The camera here is showing a very muted color. Of course, I'm shooting raw, but when I edit, I will take that in mind because this is how am I feeling now about this photo. It's a warmer feeling, warmer tone, and I want to remember that when I'm editing the photo, because the final product, the composition is not only when you're shooting, when you are photographing something. The composition, it only ends at your final product. On your, for example, on a book or on a print, or when you frame it. Well, it's getting late. I really enjoyed this photo session, and I hope you did too. Well, that's it for today, and don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe if you aren't already, and I will see you on the next video.